Today on JiK Labs, we're going to look up some data using Microsoft Excel in the equation Vlookup. Let's get started. Now that you have Excel open and ready to go, we are looking at a table or array of data that we have here with a couple of columns as well as some rows of each item. It's an item, its description, the cost, and the selling price. And down below, we are interested in looking up the sell price on a particular item. Generally, you would have a much larger list up here containing hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of lines of items that you may have in your inventory or in your catalog. And always, you don't want to have to scroll through everything to find what you're needing. Control F can take time. You put in the item code, you look it up via Vlookup, and it will instantaneously report the information that you're looking for. So for right now, we're going to say we want to look up, let's say part 103. And we're going to utilize Vlookup. So we're going to come in here and hit the equal sign, Vlookup. Open those parentheses. The first thing we want to do is, what are we looking up? Well, we're looking up B10, which is the item. We're going to hit the comma. What's our table array that we're looking up? We are looking up these part numbers up here. It's our column index. So that we're looking for sell price. That's going to be E. So that would be column 4. And then comma. And we want to say false. False says we are looking for an exact match, which we want. We'll close out the parentheses and hit enter. And we'll see item 103 has a sell price of $42. On a side note, keep in mind that Vlookup needs to have the data in which you are actually looking up as set as the far left-hand column when you're selecting your table array. If that is not the case, you may need to change the layout of your data. So real quick, let's lock these cells into place. One thing to keep in mind with Vlookup, let's just say there are many columns here. And let's just say we had C and D hidden. You would not see these. Your workbook, well, let's just hide them real quick. We hide these guys. And with this equation, if we highlighted it just like this for B and E, this would not be column 2. We would still have to account for the hidden columns. So keep that in mind if you do something like that and you're hitting column 2 and you're getting part description. So let's just come in here real quick and change it to column 2. You see, we would see part 3, which is reporting the correct data, but since we're looking for sell price, whether the columns are hidden or not, you need to account for them with Vlookup. Now that is great, easy. Done. That is Vlookup in a nutshell. You select what you want to look up, the table or array in which you want to look up the data, the column that you want to reference, and whether you want it to be an exact match, which we do. And you hit enter and you're done. So let's just come over here and let's put in part number 106. Well, that gives us an error. Well, that's a problem. Obviously, we can see since we only have 5 parts up top, there is no part 106, so that would give us an error. But let's come down here and leave this at 103, and we're going to say 106. So how do we correct that? Well, we can come in here with the equal sign, if error. This means what is the value if there's no error? So once again, we're going to come in here with Vlookup. We want to look up this part number. Again, our table has not changed. Column 4, and again, false. We're going to close out those parentheses and hit comma. But with if error, what do we say if there is an error? We're going to say item not found, in quotation marks, and then we will close out those parentheses. And we'll hit enter. We need to make that column a little bit bigger. Item not found. But if we come in here and say 103, we're going to get $42. But if we come back to 106, item not found. So that is just another little trick it'll make your Excel look a little bit nicer. Because if we come in here and do 106, we get an NA, and that's just not pretty data. So we're going to come in here and lock in some cells. Once again, with if error, what do you do? First of all, we're doing a VLOOKUP. If we get an error, we report item not found. As we see here with item 106, since item 106 is not in our list of data. If we were to come back in and do 103 again, we will see the correct output. Now let's see if we delete that data, or if we leave that item, delete that item, there's no item there, we can say item not found, which there is no item found because there's nothing to look up. Now let's take this a next step farther. We can say equals if A12 equals nothing, then we're going to say enter part number. If there is something in there, we will pretty much copy our if error with VLOOKUP. What are we looking up? We're looking up A12 again. Our array is here. We're looking in column 4, and we want an exact match. We're going to close that guy out, hit the comma. What's our error? Item not found again. And we'll close out those parentheses. So what we've done here is we're saying if there's nothing in A12, we're going to say please enter a part number. If we have something entered in that field, it's going to look up above in this array and report the selling price. If there's an error, it's going to say item not found. So we're going to close out the parentheses for the if error, and we're going to close out the parentheses for the if function, and we're going to hit enter. And now we can see right now there's nothing in this field. It's going to say enter part number. If we come in here and say 103, we're going to get $42. If we enter 106, we're going to get item not found. And if we delete that out and there's nothing to enter, it's asking us to enter the part number. Lock in these cells. Copy them over here. If A12 equals nothing, we're going to report enter part number. If error, what are we going to do? We're going to look up A12 in this set of data. We're going to report the value from column D, which is 4, and we want an exact match. If this reports an error, we'll report item not found. So we're coming here once again, 103, good, 106, we have an issue. That was a couple of different ways how you can utilize VLOOKUP. The very first example that we did in row 10 is perfectly fine. But if you have an error, it reports an NA, which is easy enough to spot when you're going through your data, but it also is a little bit nicer to take it the next step farther to give you a little bit more of a user-friendly layout. At row 11, we are just looking at if there's an error. Say that item isn't there or you have a typo. Item not found. And then in row 12, we take it the next step farther by saying if A12 in this case, our lookup value is blank, we're asking the user to enter a part number. Then we're going to go into the next step. If there's an error by looking up whatever they enter in here, we will say item not found, but if everything is fine, it will report the sell price. Thank you for joining JiK Labs today as we explored VLOOKUP and its uses to make your life a little bit easier in Microsoft Excel. Thank you for watching. Join us next week when we will look at VLOOKUP 2.0, also known as XLOOKUP. See you then. Today on JiK Labs, we're going to look up some data in Microsoft Excel. Oh, Dejana.